But we have to start at the Parc des Princes. In the City of Lights.
City of Lights and Love.
Paris Saint-Germain against Liverpool. Jules, you're supposed to make the sad face. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit sad.
I think you can be sad for the results.
Yeah.
I think for what we saw on the pitch, I think Paris Saint-Germain demolished Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I would actually be concerned if I'm Arne Slot, because he made such a big deal in the build-up to this, the fact that, oh, great, not great, but that we're not in the FA Cup. But this gives us a whole week to prepare. We couldn't have prepared properly, in only 2 days and so on. He had a whole week to prepare. I don't think his game plan worked, frankly, just by the sheer number of chances they conceded.
Yeah.
And also, I think, again, and I've said this before, Liverpool at this stage do not look as sharp, and they look tired. And it's understandable that you would look tired. And in the end, Harvey Elliott's goal late on with a mistake from Nuno Mendes sends him through. So it's a massive relief for Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe also a warning sign?
Yeah, maybe. I just have never seen them being so dominated as they were on Wednesday night. I've never been them so unrecognizable as they were on Wednesday night. As I was saying on French radio and on TV, the PSG made them look. I think PSG forced them to play that way, obviously, but made them look ordinary at time and like a random Ligue 1 team coming to the Parc des Princes. Liverpool played last night like Angers do when they come to Paris, or Nantes, or Montpellier, when you play quite deep and you just get the ball. And the time wasting from very early on in the game was so unlike Liverpool. And I mean, Virgil van Dijk, the best defender in the world, just time wasting on a goal kick. I was like, really? Is that what you do? Like the long balls. And yeah, eventually the long ball worked on Darwin and then Harvey Elliott because of the PSG mistakes. But Liverpool really struggled. Salah struggled. The midfield struggled. And that's credit to PSG. It was an amazing performance. Their counter-pressing, everything apart from scoring was great. And then you had a goalkeeper in Alisson that was just on the best night of his life.
Yeah, Alisson, I think, said afterwards that this was his best game that he's ever played for Liverpool. I would tend to agree with that. I think I'm not going to criticize Slot for necessarily taking that approach, in the sense that we know this about him. He is more pragmatic than Jurgen Klopp was. I think that is an absolute strength for Liverpool, that he says, okay, well, it's two halves here, and we go here and we minimize the damage, or in this case, you go out, you actually win the game, and then we take it back. As long as we don't lose 3 or 4-0, we're confident we could turn anything around. It's very humble, I think, an approach, and I think it's also based on the fact that, and I wonder about this a little bit. I think it's based on the fact I think fatigue is definitely an issue for this in terms of sharpness. I think also mentally, I think it's hard to be so charged up when, in the league, you're slightly kind of maintaining your lead. That's done. Yeah, you've got the champion, you've got the League Cup final. Other than that, the domestic season's over, right? So how do you then get G'd up again? It's always a transition, and but Matt, I am so happy for my man Kvaratskhelia as well.
Oh, what a game he had.
Because I know there are haters and doubters out there, but to go and to perform so quickly for Paris Saint-Germain, I think is impressive.
Very impressive, and we were told on Tuesday night that he would not start, that he would be on the bench and come on as a bit of a super sub, an impact player. And that Doué would start, and Doué has been doing so well that there was it would not have been a scandal if that had been the case. But instead, he started him. I guess the more one-on-one winger type of skill set from Kvaratskhelia, maybe more than Doué, made a difference here. And I mean, he repaid really Luis Enrique for his trust, because that first half, especially the first hour, let's say, because then a bit like the whole PSG team, his intensity dropped a little bit. They could not really find the rhythm so much anymore, and ideas and creativity. But before that, I mean, he was unplayable. And the goal he scores, it's unfortunate. He's offside for a centimeter, but that's the rule. It's fine. But it was just outstanding.
All right, Jules. A while back, you said, right now, and I think you were speaking in that moment, Ousmane Dembele could be the best player.
Yeah, that's what L'Équipe were asking.
Obviously then, when that got picked up, people, trolled you with Mohamed Salah. Again, based on last night, look, I think Mohamed Salah is a better footballer than Ousmane Dembele.
I think he's a better footballer than anybody right now.
Okay. You know you're going to get abused from Messi and Ronaldo fans. Yeah,
Well,
you know
I mean,
that.
you can't.
say
Don't
that.
give me the Messi and Ronaldo now compared with this version of Mo Salah.
But what I will say, last night, Salah had, I think, one of his worst performances for Liverpool I can remember.
Yeah.
Part of that is I think Nuno Mendes did a very good job on him.
Indeed.
Is this just Mendes being good, or do you see a potential dip in Salah? He seemed really angry when he came off and he was frustrated with
It's
himself.
really rare for him to come off as well. And he worked out because Harvey Elliott replaced him and scored 45 seconds later on his first touch. But it's really rare for Salah not to play the whole 90 minutes. He's still a player that needs the team to work for him to play well. He's not, and there are not many in the history of the game either who could just do things on their own, you know. And Messi is obviously the best example of all. But even when the team didn't play well, Messi could just get the ball and do something so magical that it would make a difference that way. For Salah, he still needs the team around him to perform well,
to be in the right places.
Exactly. And yeah, this season we've seen him being a bit anonymous at times, but just popping up with the goal or the assist. But the team was still better than they were on Wednesday night when they were so under pressure, on the back foot.
What was the game? I'm blanking on the game it was, but it was a recent game. It might have been City where he had a goal and an assist.
Yeah,
City, but he didn't really do much outside of that.
The Spurs away.
Maybe it was Spurs away.
No. The City one, you're right. But Spurs away, the League Cup first leg when Bergwijn scored, they lost 1-0. He started and just didn't have much of an impact, and Liverpool looked a bit off it. Not as much as on Wednesday in Paris, but looked a bit off it. And this is it. And as great as he's been this season, right now, as we've been saying, the best player in the big five leagues, no doubt. You're still dependent on the collective around you. And if Trent is off like he was, if Gravenberch is not on a good day like he was, if the midfield is under pressure, if there's a bit of bad passing around, then you're struggling. And Nuno Mendes had, to be fair, his best game, one of his best games since he joined the club.
And we should point out that earlier in his career, Salah played on some teams, I'm thinking of Roma, where he was just so fast and so devastating that, yeah, the scheme was we'll defend in numbers and we'll lump it up into space and Salah will run onto it.
Yeah.
But that's not how Liverpool play.
No.
And so even when they break, and obviously he's got the pace, and even when they're more defensive, he needs the other pieces around him.
Absolutely.
Equally, though, Nuno Mendes, you said, it's best game.
Yeah.
And then he craps all over it with the Harvey Elliott thing. And for those who haven't seen the highlight, it felt as if, okay, I've worked my backside off against Mohamed Salah, against arguably the best player in Europe. And now this little curly-haired dweeb comes in. I got this, no problem. And then Harvey Elliott, within a minute, sneaks in behind him.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, it looked as if he wasn't even trying to sprint him to catch him. I don't know if he would have caught him anyway. But like he wasn't moving particularly fast.
No, I mean, he was too far behind anyway. It's a shame because it's almost the perfect game from a Nuno Mendes point of view.
Until that point.
It's almost the perfect game for Marquinhos, who is much more experienced than Nuno Mendes. And I think Nuno Mendes will learn a lot from that mistake. Marquinhos losing that 50-50 with Darwin Núñez.
Hey, can we show a little bit of love for Darwin Núñez, who gets so much abuse? I thought he actually was maybe had the best game of any Liverpool player who's not Brazilian.
Yeah, I thought Curtis Jones coming on made a bit of a difference in that midfield that was outplayed. And I thought Jones would have come on at halftime. I was convinced. And then didn't see him warm up during the halftime break. For a Jota, for example.
So to go back to that kind of box.
Yeah. And what we saw at City, just to have another body in that midfield because Gravenberch and McAllister just could not do it. They could not do it. And we said very often how important Gravenberch and McAllister are, and Szoboszlai to some extent, but are for the way this Liverpool team functions. And if they are outplayed by the opposition's midfield, whoever that opposition is, it's a struggle. I thought when Jones came on, you saw a bit of difference, and PSG were tiring too. But yeah, Darwin, Elliott, long ball. Sometimes you just win by being the most simple and direct.
And you win because of several mistakes on the other team.
Marquinhos, and you don't want to talk about Donnarumma, but
Gigio got a hand to it. But yes, I expect Gigio to save those. He also had the incident before when he collided with Darwin Nunez.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're old like me, you remember commentaries from like the 1980s or 1970s where everything was totally biased and one-sided to one team, right? It was really interesting because Donnarumma, you can hear him shouting in Italian to the referee. He's like, just call the foul and do your job, right?
Yeah.
To the referee. I mean, he felt like that was definitely a foul. On the English commentary, you get the whole like, well, he's entitled to go for the ball. It's a coming together. And first, I thought that was kind of comforting. I felt kind of like old school of like what European football like when I grew up, where people had totally different perspectives. But it occurred to me that back in the day, it would have been a case of, okay, maybe in England, people, it was rougher. People let challenges fly more. Maybe elsewhere they whistled more. I don't think that's necessarily the case today. There's still differences the way the game is officiated. But it was just straight up like, ex-pro saying, he's entitled, which is one of the dumbest things. I honestly, like, there's things I don't like to hear. That is one of them.
Yeah.
Calling somebody a false nine just because he's not a guy who normally plays center forward. False nine is an approach to a position. It's not like if I put Saliba at center forward and I lump the balls to his head, it doesn't make Saliba a false nine. It makes him a center forward or a center back who's playing center forward. It doesn't become false nine has a very
I don't think
specific
people
thing.
call center back that you push on to play.
No, I'm mentioning Saliba, but we've heard it before. Right? We've heard it. I remember when he tried Grealish at center forward, and Grealish just kind of sat in the box and waited. This is 2 years ago, I think. Like, Grealish playing false nine. Like, no, it's not a false nine, right? Anyway, what a long digression. I want to wrap on kind of the broader Paris Saint-Germain because, look, let's face it. We don't talk a lot of Ligue 1. We really only talk about Paris Saint-Germain when Nasser does something stupid, when they make a stupid signing, when there's chaos, which there's been plenty in the past. And the perception is, okay, well, they go and they beat up Ligue 1 because Ligue 1 is terrible. Although, again, I think we're kind of seeing, look at Lille, look at Brest earlier, that, Monaco, they're not all bad all the time.
No,
and you still have to go and beat them. Can you talk a little bit, though, about the kind of Luis Enrique sort of project, if you will, where they opted to go for younger players, maybe more pliable players, more malleable players, more French players as well. Is this the money? It's not just a money-saving exercise, although I think there's probably that as well, but also kind of like a realization that maybe we're better off growing our stars rather than going the Messi, Neymar, Suarez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the playing ultimately doesn't bring in enough money.
Yeah, exactly. And they wanted a team with more cohesion, which is what they have. I mean, the way they played yesterday on Wednesday night again, and as a PSG fan, like how proud we were when watching that and the performance. And I know in the end Liverpool won, and well done to them because they were under pressure and they didn't break and they still went for it. And even if it's a smash and grab, you deserve credit for it. But the way PSG played, the communion with the fans as well at the Parc des Princes, the fans are clearly feels a far stronger bond with this current team, young team that plays for each other, fights for each other, run for each other, more than even the Messi, Neymar and Mbappe era. It's something very special, I think, that they have. It's growing. This is a young team. We said that, one of the youngest in the Champions League. They will get better. The ambition was not to win the Champions League this season. I think everybody knew, Luis Enrique included, that this was a long shot because there was still a lot of things to put together at the start of the season for them to get to the optimum level that Luis Enrique wanted. But now they're not far. They're not far. It's, again, we said it, but Wednesday night was one of the best performance from a team collectively that we've seen all season in all our leagues, all the European competition, everything. If they can play like that all the time against top teams, inevitably they will compete for the Champions League next season, the one after, if they can keep this group together and improve it maybe in some positions. So it was very encouraging, as cruel as it felt at the end. Of course it was. If there was still so much positive, and it felt so encouraging to see the progress of this team. We've watched them since August. we've seen some struggles. We've seen some Champions League games where they were not good, where they created chances, could not take them, but still were not good collectively. And now look at where they are and the kind of performance they can put up against Liverpool is outstanding.
It is to some degree the Luis Enrique story of
Absolutely.
kind of building and being in charge. Now, I said this before, Lucho is a genius, but he is a flawed genius.
Yeah.
And sometimes his stuff ultimately doesn't work, or he becomes too intense, too unpleasant. This is kind of stuff that happened in the past. Right?
Yeah.
He is a genuinely weird man. There's nothing conventional, I think,
true.
about him. When it comes together, it's special.
Yeah.
And I think one big thing was also how, this season, when he dropped Dembele, his fight against Colomwani to get rid of Colomwani after wanting to sign him, but that's another thing. That's maybe more of a Luis Campos thing. I don't know. And he won that, and he's been vindicated. Now he has buy-in. And by the way, you should know this off the top of your head. When you talk about identity with the local club and the fans, how many of these guys are actually Paris born and bred of the 11 who started yesterday?
Of the 11 that started yesterday, none.
Because it's a mindset, isn't it, being Paris born and bred, right?
Yeah.
That's the right answer.
It is a mindset for sure.